It was late May 2020. We were deep into the lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and George Floyd, on May 25th, was killed in Minneapolis. I knew in my heart that we had to say something meaningful, and we had to commit to doing meaningful things to begin to re-educate ourselves, the members, and everyone else around us about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Colorado Society of CPAs had several previous forays into DE&I, the most recent just 2 years before, when we focused an entire leadership council meeting, a full day, on the issues surrounding DEI. It was not particularly well attended because, at least anecdotally, people told me, I'm weary about this issue. I don't want to talk about this issue. I know what I need to pay attention to. But 2 years later, it was critical in my mind. I wrote the op-ed piece in News Account, and I reached out to several members about just setting up a working group to talk about the issues and think about and ultimately plan what the CPA Society could do to begin to make progress in this really important area. And a year later, the group said, you know what? We can begin to just have the conversations. It began in June of 2021 with a privilege walk that we hosted by Zoom for all Colorado Society members to participate in an exercise to understand with a facilitator what our place in the privilege world is, based on a simple series of questions. Did you have books in your home growing up? Did you have this? Did you experience that? Did anyone ever follow you in a shopping mall or a department store? Seemingly innocuous questions, but the outcome was clearly, where do I sit in my ability to have privilege? Then the group said, you know what? We can do a lot more around educating people, not just about the obvious ethnic or racial differences in our culture, but about some of the ones that are even more subtle or that we don't think about as often. And so the See Me series was born. And it began with our own Caitlin O'Neill talking about what it's like for her, who has autism, as a CPA. Caitlin told her story on a 1.5-hour Zoom presentation, also open to any member. And we made the decision early on that we were going to choose different individuals with different kinds of stories so that we could just talk about with a speaker what it was like to be a CPA or in accounting with a particular perspective. That led to a regular series, which then later on spawned the For Me series as well. At the end of the day, it just felt like we could make the biggest difference by publishing articles in News Account about diversity, equity, and inclusion subjects by a wide range of people, and by bringing lots of stories to life. I was blessed and privileged to be able to facilitate the first series for about 1.5 years or so before I retired. And I am so glad that the See Me series has continued as a way to remind us all that we are human first and foremost, and that our most important objective is to educate ourselves so that we are able to be more compassionate and understanding of those who are different.
Hi there, Judy Thomas here. As you may have guessed from the picture, I am an Asian American. I was born in Japan, and I spent the majority of my very early years living in Japan. As a precocious child, I spoke English and Japanese, so I could translate Japanese television to English for my dad. It was only when we moved to the United States that I insisted that we needed to speak English only. Silly me. I am a twin. My twin sister Joyce and I are not identical twins. In fact, we do not share the same birthday. We were born 36 hours apart. Having two different birthdays created confusion when we were younger. For example, the Social Security Administration was convinced my dad had made a mistake on our birth dates when he applied for our Social Security numbers. They kept sending the forms back asking him to clarify the dates. It ended with a phone call from the Social Security Administration to fix the error. I still can give my sister a hard time about being older when we reach those milestone birthdays. Joyce and I became U.S. citizens right before our 6th birthday in U.S. District Court in Denver, Colorado. You may not know that most Japanese people do not have middle names like Americans do. When we became U.S. citizens, my sister and I received our middle names. Some of the things that make me me are family is very important to me. I am an ally and brave space trainer. I am a dog lover. I am loyal and I am a Rockies fan. Those two might be interconnected. I believe in unicorns. Specifically, I believe that all things are possible if you believe. Like my dad, I am the big kid at heart. I fight for the underdog, and I have all my life. Fighting for the underdog led me to pursue a career as an attorney. I figured out early on that a few credits in political science were unlikely to get me a job. As I was paying my own tuition in college, and I knew I would run out of money pretty quick, I needed useful skills to be able to keep going. So I tried that accounting thing. I had worked in bookkeeping and I enjoyed it, so I figured that was a good choice. Honestly, though, when I first learned about debits and credits, I shook my head and thought, I just don't get it. I don't think I'm ever going to get it. But here I am, many, many years later, thinking all things are possible if you believe. Thank goodness for unicorns. Debits and credits proved to be the starting point for this accountant. It's all history now. Those debits and credits opened the doors to all sorts of possibilities and a rewarding life. Now, if I could only get those unicorns to help the Rockies win the World Series, life would be very good indeed.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. We are so thrilled to have Jim Gilbert with us today, and I'm going to let him take it from here.
I've got a few questions. So I'm going to answer them for everybody. I hope this is not boring and exciting for people. First question is, what makes you unique? I'm a first generation CPA in college graduate, first person to graduate. Ironically, I was an airborne infantry soldier in the 90s. Prior to finishing my degree, I decided to do that. And can you imagine going from that to being a CPA? I've got a black belt in Taekwondo. I like to work out. I do this thing called rucking, lots of traveling. That's what we like to do. So try to not live a boring, too boring of a CPA life. Second question, What makes your job unique? What we love about our jobs is we get to help our clients with people, process, and technology and all sides of their business and accounting. We have a direct impact on their lives. We get to develop relationships with them at a very deep level. So, what traditions do you have? Well, we have lots of family. We have a very diverse family. We're involved in many with many family and friends, and we have friends because we lived in Germany and overseas. We have friends from all walks of life, all different religions, all over the world. So we get to do a lot of cool things. I'm married to an Hispanic lady, so you can imagine with her background and what they have for traditions. We get to experience lots of different things, and it's very nice and fascinating for me. What stories can you share with us? I'm proud of my military background, my personal endeavors, and willingness to take on technology, and a large focus of my life. So I did a little bit different. A little bit different than most people. Most people focus on audit, tax, and consulting. We've worked on technology. This was not common in the late 90s when I graduated from college, and have been blessed to have been provide service and education to my peers and many of my CPAs. It's a great impact I think for my fellow CPAs. And what foods are unique to your culture? Well, again, as I told you, we have lots of different sides of our family. We have a full suite of common, Mexican foods, French, English, lots of different things. And with my friends involved, we have food from all over, right? From Indian, from Guatemalan to all sides of the planet. So it makes a lot of fun. So French stuffing and Mexican pork chili are my favorite two dishes that I have that I like the most. Last question is, what else would you like to share? Having lived in Germany for 4 years and serving with many different nations really gave me a broad perspective and a kind of a global outlook. I got to serve with all the NATO members and went to the field and got to travel and enjoy the foods and the different customs of all those different folks. And I really appreciated my time learning about the world that I would never done if I'd never left Colorado and came back, So really enjoy the kind of a unique lifestyle and a non-boring CPA lifestyle to boot, right? So I hope that's helpful, Tiffany, and appreciate the opportunity today.
Hi, my name is Erin Haas, and thanks for watching my video for the See Me series. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season and enjoy this, as we've worked really hard to kind of put these together for everyone to enjoy. So my name is Erin. I've been in accounting for 20-ish years. I don't want to count about that. So I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am in Denver, Colorado, and I have 2 kids. I've divorced in 2015, since unfortunately been widowed. So that brought a fair amount of challenges into my life in the last 10 to 15 years, but I have 2 amazing kids. You see us here for Thanksgiving, celebrating with family. We're all local here, so it really makes it easy to get together for the holidays. How I became an accountant, or what would be unique about how I found the profession, is inspiration, I guess, from my folks. So hopefully they're not in the room, but it's okay if they are, to hear me compliment it. But I'm 2nd generation CPA. My mom was an accountant. I was raised inside of the office. John Gardner CPA is forever burned into my memory as a childhood pastime. And, they're all here. I actually live next door to my parents. It provides convenience for them as they age. And as I'm single, it helps me kind of manage the children as they come up with things. So here is us at my son's recent National Honor Society nomination at school a few weeks back. And the big question is, do we have a 3rd generation accountant amongst us in the family? I don't think so, just seeing how the children are developing their personalities, but you never know, right? I might be their unsung hero. I wanted to just call out that I feel like accounting's a little bit of adventure. I couldn't find a good picture to summarize or I guess articulate out why I think it's an adventure. The amount of things you can do, different things you can do in the industry is amazing. And where I started my career is absolutely not where I ended. And I had this very creative path where now I have found myself as the SVP of Finance and Operations for Young Americans, which is a nonprofit here in Cherry Creek. So I've really enjoyed moving into that role, but every role I'm able to take on leads to another really cool role. So currently, I'm enjoying working for that nonprofit, and I would get their logo, but we just rebranded, and the marketing person would probably get me for that. So come check us out if you haven't heard of Young Americans. It's a really cool nonprofit. This is my family. We go on lots of different adventures. We have a couple of pictures here. Goat yoga. St. Patty's Day is my favorite holiday. That's the one day of the year where having a name like Aaron is a really prominent feature. So look that up if you're not too familiar with the Irish naming for Aaron. And then just adventures here. So this is us doing some zip lining. We spent a week in a van on the beach in Hawaii. We actually went to Oahu for that trip. And then this is us in San Diego last year. So we just have a ton of fun together. My children are absolutely where I'm at right now in my life. They are constantly what is the priority. And so I'm going to end with a grow up picture of my kids. This is what happens when I get lost in my Google Photos. Sorry about that, Judy. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year.
I would like to introduce you to Astrid. Astrid was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo and was raised by her mother's sister. The Congo was the only home she knew, but that would change. Her uncle was killed, and she and her aunt fled to find a haven, a new home where they could live their lives without worry of violence and death. They fled to Uganda. Moving there meant adjusting to new people and a new language. This fascinated Astrid, and at 15, she learned to speak multiple languages. Now she is able to converse in more than 6 languages, and was often mistaken as a local in Uganda due to her ability to fit in and fluently speak their language. Being young and determined, she always loved challenges. When her aunt was away at work, she was working on her own business and attending school, which helped provide for her and her aunt. With all of that being said, what sets her apart is her consistent positivity through all situations, her enjoyment of challenges, diversity, various cultures and languages, and most importantly, her love for people. Residing in Uganda provided a sense of security. However, her aunt desired a more improved quality of life, the potential for a fulfilling life in America. Residing in Uganda, her aunt was uncertain if this was a permanent residence. She believed the United States presented superior chances. They embarked on creating a new life outside of Africa. The search for a future full of chances and options brought her and her aunt to multiple refugee camps. 4 years later, they were flying to the U.S. without knowing a word of English. After arriving, a caseworker decided that she could not stay with her aunt anymore, so was placed with a foster family in Colorado Springs. The initial dish she had in the U.S. was a pepperoni pizza. Her foster family believed it would be a fantastic dinner. She avoided eating it due to its strange appearance and unfamiliarity. This marked the beginning of numerous novel encounters. She was an individual who appreciated challenges and new experiences, yet found it somewhat challenging to adapt to American culture. Growing up, she was accustomed to eating bugali. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. Made from corn flour mixed with warm water until it formed a braid-like consistency, traditionally eaten with vegetables like sambe or any vegetable and protein. Transitioning to pizza and American cuisine was challenging. Astrid continues to celebrate her culture, including wearing bikwembe, an African Congolese traditional outfit. These are worn when a woman turns 18, It is customary to wear them as a sign of respect. In this photo, she and other women from her church wear this outfit to celebrate Women's International Day. Why did Astrid become a CPA? At the age of 15, she was the proud owner of a jewelry boutique. She loved having the independence to make her own business choices without relying on others for assistance. She enjoyed engaging with individuals while managing a business, experiencing problem solving. The unique nature of the accounting profession is what draws her to that field. She aims to demonstrate to the community how something considered impossible can actually be achieved. Her ultimate objective is to achieve success as a CPA, businesswoman, and a good citizen of America. What makes her job unique? One thing she really enjoys about working at GHJ is the opportunity to collaborate with people from various cultures and backgrounds, each bringing their unique life perspective to the table. Thank you so much to Astrid for sharing her story. See us the same. See us different. See us together.
In my diverse family, the majority ruled when it came to what we served for a traditional Christmas dinner. While most families in America were sitting down to a Christmas turkey or ham feast, we threw a special fresh Vietnamese spring roll party. It took hours to prepare for the feast with everyone chipping in to help. We shopped for the freshest ingredients and spices to blend with our fish sauce to create unique flavors. Dinner was served on our finest china. And yes, that also included our formal black walnut chopsticks. My wife and I honor the diverse cultures that surround us, both within our family and beyond. Without a doubt, it has opened my heart and mind to what is possible when we recognize and celebrate our differences in an environment of honor, humanity, and mutual respect. Our front door is the brightest red door in town. We intentionally chose red because, one, it represents mabuhay, or a gigantic welcome in Tagalog, in honor of my wife's Filipino roots, and two, as a sign of refuge for all who enter, a tribute to those who sought freedom on their journey north with the aid of the American Underground Railroad. The journey for freedom lives on today, and the deadly danger to those who seek refuge and to those who offer refuge to immigrants and the marginalized may soon become as harsh today as it was when slavery was legally sanctioned in the U.S. Join me in celebrating the unique contributions that each one of us has to offer. Please see us the same, see us different, and see us together. I have lived my life in vibrant colors, enhanced by the lenses of diversity that enrich my environment, breathing renewed life into my soul. I feel so lucky.
Kelly is the leader of Plant Moran's Rocky Mountain Region Assurance Practice as well the healthcare practice. After more than 20 years in this profession, Kelly has had many successes. Kelly was instrumental in building Plant Moran's healthcare practice and launching a women's networking group in Colorado. Kelly is Croatian and wanted to share some of her family's holiday traditions. From Kelly: here are two of my favorite holiday foods, unique to my Croatian culture, that my 9 cousins and I grew up eating in our grandmother's kitchen. I make the cabbage rolls every New Year's Day. However, I'm not patient enough in the kitchen to replicate Pavatica to look like the picture. But Father still can. Pavatica bread. Making Povedica is a fun holiday time activity and makes a great neighbor or friend gift. Povedica, Potica, or Pavatica, whatever you call it or however you spell it, it is a delicious, sweet Croatian nut roll. Stuffed cabbage rolls, or sarma, are part of traditional cuisine in many Central European countries, including Croatia's. It's customary to serve it for New Year's, and it's often made in enormous quantities and eaten over the course of several days. It is served with potatoes.
Hi, I'm Myra Finet, and I am a retired CPA. And part of this whole thing is to talk about traditions. Traditions we have as CPAs, traditions we have as just going through life. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll go from there. I was raised by a single parent in Aurora, Colorado. We lived in a trailer that was probably 8 feet wide by 20 feet long, and it was the best thing ever to have the ability to live life in a different way. My mother was a teacher, so she was an educator, which gave us the opportunity to get out of the trailer into something else. Now, the key is, I never wanted to be a teacher. No, I never wanted to teach people. Well, later on I figured out I sort of did. Anyway, when we lived in the trailer court, I planted pumpkins all over the place. Now, don't ask me why, but I did. And to this day, which is many decades later, some of those pumpkins still exist. In a weird way, some of them still exist. And you're going to say, why did you do that, Myra? Really, why did you do that? We'll get to that in just a little bit. So, I always wanted to be an actress or an astronaut. Somehow living in a trailer in Aurora, you couldn't quite get there at all. I tried, well, not the astronaut part, but the actress part. Never made it. I was Lady Macbeth in high school. That was about it. Fun to do, though. Really fun to do. So I ended up being a CPA. How did that happen? What happened from there? My mother, when she taught school in Thornton. So she had worked with an enrolled agent to do her tax return. Now, remember, this is decades ago. So that enrolled agent would give her back her tax return and be in a trifold. So it'd be a trifold, almost like leather bound. Wasn't really, but it seemed like it when I was little. Leather bound trifold with a ribbon around it that was her tax return. And I thought that was so cool to have, something like that, to do something like that, to put together that product. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I did. Now, as I went through my next, 40 years of being a CPA, I never really was to produce a trifold tax return. But I got to see a lot of things and do a lot of things and work with some amazing people. From, as I sit here in the Colorado Society of CPAs, from the group that's there and what they've done for me, to the profession of people that were my competitors and yet my friends. It became part of an amazing group of people. Now, let's go back a bit to, I guess, the opportunities I had. I had the opportunities in all different aspects that to this day, I love going around the city and saying, this is what I worked on. I didn't just work on it. I worked on it with the help of, as I said, a great group of people. So now, I'm going to go back for a second. We talked about that I planted pumpkins. Why did I plant pumpkins? Really? Why did I do that? Well, I loved Halloween. And I think some of you out there know I loved Halloween and love Halloween. So because of that, that just became my life. And my mother took an opportunity to, when I was little, to travel all around. She loved Halloween too, actually. She always used to dress up for her class. But we would travel to downtown Denver, and she would tell me every single building that was in downtown Denver how it came there, how it originated, because she grew up in Denver. She went to South High School. Her mother grew up in Denver. Her ex-husband grew up in Denver. They all grew up here. And so to have the chance to see what historically Denver was, and so as part of that, it developed into a connection with the city. And of course, because I loved Halloween, then I got to hear all the ghost stories of the buildings in downtown Denver. So I have learned and been involved with and talked to the people who have experienced some of those ghosts, quote unquote, in those buildings in downtown Denver. So it became part of my tradition, an understanding of the history of Colorado, the history of Denver, and the history of why these stories develop and where they come from. All because of my mother. And I'm still a CPA. The other thing she used to do was to, at Thanksgiving or Christmas time, we'd go to downtown Denver. And long ago, she would show me all, like the May Company, she would show me all the decorations that were in the buildings. And she'd tell me the lights that were on the city and county building. And when she was a child, how they originated. Just a feeling of magic was created, in the city. And that, I think, is really important, to have that magic. Now, I'm going to go back a bit to the tradition of Halloween. And I think this is real important as you look at and enjoy the people that you're around. I once, about a few years ago, I had it was trick or treat night. It was Halloween, and it's 9:00 at night, and there's a knock at the door, and you're going, oh my God, it's an older person knocking at the door at 9:00 at night. So you answer the door, and a little tiny person, little tiny girl in a beautiful little princess outfit looks up at me and goes, trick. I go, what? Trick. Oh my God. I would have given her every piece of candy I had in my entire house. So I dumped candy, and she had very little candy in her basket. I dumped candy in, and she turns around and she goes down the stairs, runs down, skips down the sidewalk to her father, who's waiting at the end of the sidewalk. And she reaches up her hand, and he grabs her hand, and he reaches down and he whispers to her. And he says something, and all of a sudden she turns around and she goes, thank you. And she skips off. That is tradition. That is a Halloween. That is not a scary story. It's an understanding of a tradition of a person who's involved in Halloween, how you make it and create it. I think more than anything, it's a creativity associated with who we are as people. It's the passion, it's the imagination, and it's the creativity that makes us who we are. And I think that's so important. That little girl, I don't know what her future will bring, but I suspect it'll be a lot. And I think that's what we see as we look at the future of the profession and the future of who we are. Anyway, I'm glad you listened to my story. I thank the See Me series for bringing this to you. And by the way, I'm now off and running because I now have to go chase some Christmas ghosts. Thank you.
Hi, Blaze. Thank you for sharing some information with us. Let's start with, what makes you unique?
My oldest son and I share the same birthday. It is the best birthday gift I have ever received and could ever receive.
What makes your job unique?
I have had the chance to travel to 38 U.S. states and 3 countries with my job.
What traditions do you have?
I take my kids, wife, and mom anywhere in the world of their choice on their multiple of 5 birthday.
What stories can you share with us?
I have ran about 14 long-distance races, marathons and half marathons.
What foods are unique to your culture?
Baked fish and fried plantains.
What else would you like to share?
I love skiing and golfing. I ski an average of 20 days per season. I am a below average golfer, but love getting out there and keep hoping that one day I will play a 72.
Thanks for sharing this with us. Good luck with that golf score.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, Rhonda. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thanks everyone for having me today. So I'm Rhonda Donater. I'm a managing director at KPMG. I'm in our business tax services, and I actually serve mostly in the asset management real estate practice. And I'm really happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes your job unique?
Well, I have thought about this question a lot, right? And we often think of ourselves as just an accountant and that we, debits and credits and balance sheets and financial statements. But, each of us is unique to the service or the company that we're a part of, right? So like there's people that are in the restaurant service, there's individuals that are part of manufacturing and they're part of something more than just being part of the accounting group. And so for me, I think what's unique about me, I like to think of myself as like a botanist for the accounting industry. Fun fact, I love plants, and what people will notice around our office is a ton of various different plants, and we take care of them. It brings good energy. But with that too, I help. I like to think that my profession is not just serving clients. My profession is to develop, to cultivate, to grow young tax professionals to be leaders, whether it's in industry or within our public accounting profession. We have the opportunity in public accounting to sit at the table with the C-level executives and to be part of investors on their journey with with their investments and growth there. And it requires a special level of person to not only be able to handle client service needs, but also just to be able to talk and speak with these people. And as part of KPMG, it's really a whole experience of getting to know humans on a really deep level. We spend a lot of time with each other. So really learning to pull that out. It's about having that energy, being able to see people grow as a human, as an individual, as a way to provide client service, and just as they grow in their lives and career and start developing others. So that's what I like to think of myself as an accounting botanist.
That's amazing. Thank you. What makes you personally unique?
This one's fun. So I am an identical twin. And I have actually discovered that being an identical twin is not as unique as it may sound. But the real fun fact here is that my identical twin, when we were like leaving high school, figuring out our college plan, she was dead set that she was going to be an accountant. She was going to go to Metro and she was going to be an accountant. She started out her career. She did go to Metro. She completed her degree was in education, and she was a math teacher for several years, and then now she's a dean/principal. Myself, I wanted to go into aerospace engineering, and so what I find super unique is that my identical twin sister, I kind of like took over that little life of I became the accountant and the accounting botanist, if you will. So full circle on her dreams.
That's awesome. What brought you to accounting? What made you decide you wanted to take that route?
I was in I was at CU. I wanted to build space stations. I wanted to do all of these sorts of things. And then I discovered chemistry and physics were really important to that. And that was not where my fun and where my heart was. So I decided I would change majors, and I looked over at the business school, and like just all the other things there just didn't make sense to me, and I love numbers. So I decided that accounting was the route to go. And I'll tell you what, I think that we probably don't place as much value or see the value that happens in our just in the process of our education, in what the path is to get a job. And within accounting, I feel like there's so much more that is offered on college campuses in terms of being able to find something. And so it made sense logically for me. And then I just didn't realize like how much what I managed to find myself in really served what I found beneficial in life. And like for me, I'm really a giver. I take joy in watching people grow. I find that when I'm struggling emotionally, or I'm kind of a blue, a little down and out, that like being able to serve others like really brings me joy. And every day that I get to the opportunity to walk through these doors, I get to serve my team members, I get to serve my clients, and this profession like gives so much more to me than just a paycheck, which is a great paycheck. I think accounting has done a great job in terms of providing for my family, but it's the intangibles really that I get from what I get to do every day.
That's amazing. All right. Tell us a little bit about your traditions and what you do around the holidays.
Yeah, so I come from a very close-knit family. My dad is born I'm part of a Mexican family, and a big tradition that was started probably 20 years ago is now become called Tamale Fest in our family. So my grandmother growing up, she always used to we always had tortillas, and then we also had tamales at the holidays. And we never really knew. I mean, you just like you showed up on Christmas Eve and tamales were right there. And so as she was getting older, we tried to figure out a plan, like how are we going to live without tamales, when grandma like, moves on. And so we had a couple of years where we got all our aunts and uncles together and some of the older cousins. And we filmed grandma making them. We watched her with her recipe, we tried to create the recipe because it was never a recipe written down. Grandma just had it up here. So we pulled all of that together, and year over year, it just kind of became more and more of a big thing that we do. It's the first Saturday after Thanksgiving. Everyone goes down and crams into my Nino's house. And we have our rolls. You have the masa mixers, you have the masa spreaders, you have the people that then take we make the meat up and the filling, and you have people that put the filling on, and then you wrap them up. And the torch has not yet been passed on who gets to take care of the pressure cooker and the cooking of them. But if you think about it, a tamale is so perfect to describe the holidays. It's in this little package, and you open it up and there's this yummy goodness that comes out. And so that's what we do. I will also put out there, I'm very spoiled, and I probably will never order tamales at any restaurant because I'm very particular and obviously quite biased that my grandmother's tamales are the absolute best. And so that's a big family tradition. It's so amazing, the pictures year over year, and watching my nieces and nephews and my cousins' children enjoying the season of tamales. Last year was the first year that I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I guess recently she's discovered flavor. So she was willing to try a tamale. And now she doesn't understand how we could have let her go for so long. And I'm stoked. I'm like, this is great. She's finally being able to embrace something that's like really fun and like great about our family heritage, and it's delicious. And then I'm very upset about it too, because now she's eating what would be the joy of my full belly of a yummy tamale. Now I think we're gonna just have to figure out how to make more tamales. I know I think we had talked about it too. One thing that was really funny, one year, I think we counted, it was like 150 dozen tamales that were made. And that's just so you could take like 2 dozen tamales per person or like per family home to enjoy. So a lot of Romans out there, a lot of family.
That's awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate it. And happy holidays.
Everybody have a wonderful holiday season. And I can't wait to hear of other people's traditions. It's been a great part of this See Me series in this past year, is really learning about all of the things that people do outside of work, learning about the differences, but yet also learning how we all have so many similarities. So go recruit for accounting, everyone. It's a great place to be.
Hi, Pat. First question. What makes you unique?
I love the beach more than the mountains, even though I have lived in Colorado for 36 years.
What makes your job unique?
As part of my role as Chief Accounting Officer, I also handle the company's corporate real estate and am involved in our insurance program.
What traditions do you have?
In 2024, we broke our long-standing tradition of having traditional Thanksgiving with our extended families by being in Puerto Rico to support our oldest daughter who is playing college basketball.
I'm so glad you and your family made it to the beach and got to watch your daughter play basketball. We appreciate you sharing your take on seeing us the same, seeing us different, and seeing us together.
I'm a member of the DE&I committee, and I grew up in a small town in southern Colorado, and both my parents were teachers, so it was nice that they had the same breaks over the winter that we did, my two brothers and I. And we would do things like go ice skating on the frozen pond out on the farm. We had lots of animals, and the goat kind of became more of a pet for us. And so he would always go with us along with the dog when we'd hike up in the mountains to cut down our Christmas tree. But the main thing we did was that both my parents grew up in Iowa. And so we drive back there over the Christmas break to visit all our relatives. And that would start sometime in the middle of the night. My parents would put my brothers and I in the back of the van after we were asleep so that they could drive overnight and make most of the trip while these three crazy boys were still sleeping. We'd wake up somewhere around Omaha the next morning and have breakfast, and then get into Iowa sometime later that day. And we'd spend about a week traveling around the state. So the relatives were kind of spread out, visiting everybody. And to remember how cold it was, much colder than Colorado, and the snow never melts there, so it would just pile up in dirty layers. But despite all the cold and everything and all the snow, we always had a great time seeing our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. And we had lots of cousins, so we would get to see them. So always really good memories. Today, my wife and I are really fortunate that our three adult children and their spouses all live here in Denver, so we don't have to travel over the holidays. So Christmas Eve is church service, and then coming home, having a big bowl of chili, and watching a movie, usually Christmas Vacation, and everybody in the family knows all the best lines, so someone's reciting them. It's not the classiest movie in the world, but we have a lot of fun with it. And then now all the families usually in the morning are celebrating Christmas kind of quietly at home together. And then we all get together in the afternoon and have Christmas dinner and exchange gifts. And so, a lot of things have changed over the years, but what hasn't changed is just how important family is. And we just feel really blessed that we can all be together at this time.